Alright, Pennywise, the scary clown. I'm sure you guys all know him. He's easily one of the most horrifying characters in the history of literature and film. But the question is, why are so many people afraid of Pennywise? Is it because of his sick backstory? Is it because of his creepy appearance? In this video, I'm going to explain the evolution of Pennywise the clown and why we are so frightened by it. Before I get into this video, I just want to say it took me a lot of time, so I want to thank everyone in advance for the support and feedback on my channel. We're all going to grow together. If you like what you see, I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe. It's free and it helps support the channel a lot. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the genius behind Pennywise the clown. I'm sure you guys already know who he is, but for those of you who don't, Pennywise is a fictional ancient evil dating back thousands of years. It was first seen in Stephen King's horror novel in 1986. It was the main antagonist of the city of Derry, Maine, as it preyed on the town every 27 years. Pennywise is not human, but it can shapeshift into any form, often resembling its prey's greatest fear. This concept alone is actually kind of horrifying, but why are people so scared of the form Pennywise the clown? Well, actually, clowns originate from Egypt in 2400 BC. The clown would evolve over thousands of years until they were known as the jolly clumsy fools who were covered in paint and wore disproportionate clothing. Now, a question you might be thinking is, if clowns were meant to be funny, then why are so many people irrationally scared of clowns? Well, there are many reasons why people suffer from the fear known as coulrophobia. First, starting in 1919, Sigmund Freud popularized the uncanny effect. The uncanny effect is essentially when people are scared of something because it's almost human appearance. It is unfamiliar, yet familiar at the same time. A couple of common examples would be like zombies, dolls, and lifelike artificial intelligence, because they all look human, yet they're not, so it tricks the brain. This effect is especially prevalent with clowns because of their face paint and disproportionate appearance in many body parts. So to put it in simpler terms, we're scared of clowns and Pennywise because they appear to be human, yet they aren't, and they look different to us. Although it is to be noted that it's widely believed that this is not the only reason we are scared of clowns. Another popularized belief is that the serial killer John Wayne Gacy ruined clowns for many. For those of you who don't know who Gacy is, he was a real-life serial killer in the 70s who over 70 years assaulted and murdered at least 33 young boys. This sick monster used to be known as Pogo the Clown. He was especially frightening because of the amount of birthday parties, charity events, and children's hospitals he performed at. This obviously devastated the business of clowns and was a catalyst to Stephen King writing the horror novel It. Another small factor that definitely contributed well was the fact that in 2016, a year before the 2017 film was released, there was a trend where people would eerily dress up as clowns and try to scare random people. This definitely made people more afraid of clowns, which worked perfectly for the new movie as it was highlighted in the trailer as being about a scary clown. So with this 2016 trend, people were becoming more and more afraid, which made them want to go see this movie to scare themselves. King's historic novel It was released in 1986 and terrified readers across the world. Throughout the 4 years that Stephen King wrote It, he was heavily under the influence of drugs, which led to very eerie plot themes in the book, which somehow were able to make the main antagonist, known as It, even more terrifying than It already was. When asked, Stephen King notes that the reason It takes the form of a clown the most is because children are most afraid of clowns. The book was King's second longest and one of his most convoluted and complex storylines yet. This book included an impact as it was able to spawn 2 different iterations of the story in film. Now, the first time Pennywise was seen on film was in the 1990 miniseries just 4 years after the novel release. Pennywise was portrayed perfectly in one of the most horrifying performances in any film. Tim Curry, who starred as Pennywise in both parts of the 1990 miniseries, made Pennywise a terrifying character who haunted the dreams of many for years. Through 2 very brief 90-minute episodes, Tim Curry was able to have one of the most impactful roles in horror as he gave his part his all in the timeless performance. The second and third time respectively Pennywise was seen in film was the 2017 and 2019 versions of the story in It and It Chapter 2. Now I'm actually going to focus a little more on the 2017 and 2019 films as they're more recent and I believe that they have caused Pennywise to be more popular, especially in modern culture. But first, starting off with the 1990 miniseries, it's actually very impactful in many ways, but there are a couple things that are different from the recent renditions. First of all, the dialogue I believe is a little bit clunkier, and the clown is less scary. Now, while a lot of the fear has been saturated because of time, I still believe that this isn't that scary, which isn't a problem, because you don't need to have a scary movie for it to be good.
That's him. That's him.
It's not a man. It.
One thing I did notice was that the 1990 miniseries was actually able to produce a great storyline despite the amount of time it was given. Now, the recent renditions, I think they're combined almost like 5 hours of film, whereas these are two 90-minute episodes that were given for the entire story of it. I mean, it is over 1,100 pages, so it's very difficult in just 3 hours to tell the entire story with the same amount of impact and equivalent dialogue and fear. But overall, I still think that the 1990 miniseries did a great job with what it needed to do. Tim Curry and the entire cast did a phenomenal job in this miniseries. Now, on to It Chapter 1 and 2 from 2017 and 2019 respectively. Believe it or not, It Chapter 1 had the highest box office revenue of any horror movie ever and broke box office records on its first week. One of the reasons this movie got so popular is because of the infamous trailer that saw Georgie get his arm bit off and then Pennywise eat Georgie.
Without your boat.
This trailer was able to show people just how creepy Pennywise was and how far he would go in this movie. The trailer was depicting the cold open, which I will still stand by as being one of the best cold opens in horror history. Another thing that this movie did great was it molded so many young horror fans. For example, me. I would not be the horror fan I am today if I had not watched this movie back in 2017. In this version of the movie, the actor Bill Skarsgard played the prestigious role of Pennywise. Now, the reason I say that this role is prestigious was because Tim Curry built it up as being a very difficult role to follow. Tim Curry did a phenomenal job, as everybody knows, and I think that Bill Skarsgard surpassed expectations as he was able to deliver a convincing and horrifying portrayal of the iconic clown. An underrated and very impressive thing that Bill Skarsgard was able to do was when he was able to look at the camera while simultaneously looking at the on-screen victim. This was really cool as it made it seem that Pennywise was looking at you while you were watching the movie. And on top of that, there was no camera magic or post-production work to make Bill Skarsgard do that. He could actually just move his eyes like that.
A lazy eye and I can make it go.
Other than Skarsgard's historic performance, the movie excelled at other things, one of the most notable being the casting. The cast was nearly flawless to represent each of their kids and their unique qualities. Namely, Richie, who was played by Finn Wolfhard, and Eddie, who was played by Jack Dylan Grazer, were able to perfect their on-screen relationship with witty humor.
Okay, I can smell that from here. It's probably just your breath wafting back into your face.
I want to note that one of the most difficult things to do in any movie is writing accurate and funny preteen/teen dialogue. Andy Muschietti, the director, and the cast of the kids were able to perform brilliantly with a combination of trust and improv to make the characters as funny and believable as possible. People very often criticize It Chapters 1 and 2 because they're not scary enough and have too many jump scares. And while I agree with those criticisms to an extent, I believe that many scenes such as the projector scene and the library scene can be terrifying when you watch them alone or in the right environment. Another thing that makes these two movies so awesome is how seriously you can take the lore of Pennywise. Now you may be wondering, what do I mean by this? Well, Pennywise is a shapeshifter who's always watching the kids and they make it known in many scenes. These scenes don't often have to be suspenseful or have jump scares or scares at all. Most notably, in the first movie, the librarian was watching Ben in the background during a scene when he was reading through the book. Another scene is also when the clown was watching Richie after he expressed his fear of clowns. These are more chilling than any jump scares in either movie because they're actually able to portray this sense of paranoia and that you're always being stalked and watched by this creature. Overall, the 2017 and 2019 versions are given a lot of criticism because of how popular they are, and I 100% believe that they're able to hang with some of the best horror movies of all time because of their portrayal of emotion and hilarious dialogue. These movies' popularity have made Pennywise an extremely well-known villain in horror and caused many people to have nightmares over him. Whether it's a serial killer, the uncanny effect, or the 2016 trend, we have all found Pennywise scary at one point or another. So back to the original question, what makes Pennywise scary? Honestly, I think it's all up to the viewer. It's subjective. I think if you think that Pennywise is scary because of his jump scares or his looks, that's perfectly fine. Pennywise has quickly become one of the most famous villains in all of pop culture, and I think that we all find him scary for a different reason, and that's perfectly okay. But Stephen King, Tim Curry, Bill Skarsgård, and the Pennywises of the future will always be nightmare fuel for all of us as we realize the true genius behind Pennywise the Clown. So what did you guys think about the genius behind Pennywise? If you guys want to see more videos just like this, please don't forget to let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching it and making this far, and don't forget to stay cool, fellas.